Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. As we close this wonderful convention, I personally would like to thank each and every one of you for attending and supporting the second gathering of the Vultures. And now, my favorite story. It's about a woman. She's standing, well, actually, she locks her keys in the car. And she's a little bit nervous and upset, and she happens to be a Christian woman that likes to pray. So she's praying, oh Lord, I locked my keys in the car. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And with that, just about that time, a man's walking by, and he sees what's happening. So he goes over and zips up. He's got the car door open, and he hands her the keys, and she's surprised. She says, oh Lord, thank you for sending me this nice man. And the man wasn't quite sure how to respond. So he says, to tell you the truth, I'm not so nice. You see, I just got out of jail for grand theft auto, and that's how I was able to get in your car so quick. So the woman thinks for a minute, and she says, oh Lord, thank you. You even sent me a professional. Ladies and gentlemen, this next act does not get any more professional. They have amazed audiences throughout North America, throughout Asia, throughout Europe. And I understand the press in Germany refers to them as champions of magic. I understand the press in China refers to their performance, their act, as a visual feast of magic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, the award-winning Ted and Marion Outerbridge.
Very much.
Thank you, Maverick. And thank you for helping us remember what a great entertainer. And you know, entertainers are all the time looking for ways for people to remember them. Sometimes they pass out business cards or do marketing. But I'm going to tell you the best way to get people to remember you is to borrow money from them. They will never forget you if you have their money. And you know the best way to save money is to forget who you borrowed it from. No, I'm just teasing. This next speaker is going to talk to us and tell us why it's so important to hold tight to your money when you're at the gambling table. Please welcome to the stage, Terry Roses. Good morning, and welcome back. It's so good to be here. I am so happy to see each and every one of you. And speaking about happy, that reminds me of my favorite story. You might have read it in a paper. It's a local paper. It was in the paper this morning. Right over here in Anderson, there was a couple celebrating 58 years of a happy marriage. And I understand when the newspaper reporter went to interview the husband, he says, what's your secret to 58 years of a happy marriage? And the husband said, well, that's easy. He said, on our 25th wedding anniversary, we both got on a plane, we both flew to China, and we had a great time. We enjoyed the Chinese culture, we sang, we danced, it was wonderful. And then there was a pause, a little bit of quiet, and finally the newspaper reporter said, well, is that all there is? And the husband said, oh, no. He says, on our 50th wedding anniversary, I got on a plane, I flew to China, and brought her back home. Speaking of home, this next speaker, Cincinnati is his hometown. Born and raised in Cincinnati, but he has traveled the world over, maybe even several times, as an entertainer, as a magician, as a speaker, and as a business owner, all in the entrepreneur spirit. And he says that most of his success is due to having good mentors. This next speaker is going to come out and talk about some of his mentors. Please welcome to the stage, Maverick Cummins.
Thank you very much, Paul. Oh, wow.
We ready? Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome back. Before we begin, I'd like to make a comment or so. And first of all, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to so many of you today. And I regret that I didn't get a chance to talk to all of you. And the ones I missed, I hope I get a chance to talk to you before the convention is over. And I hope that each and every one of you get to talk to and get to know each and every other one of you. Because you can build your new friendships and rekindle the existing ones. And to them, when you take that back home, those will be the biggest treasures to walk away with. And now, my favorite story. It's a story about a preacher. He loved to play golf. He's been preaching for 30 years, and one Sunday morning, he wakes up with this hankering, and he's just got to play golf. So he calls the associate pastor and says, "I'm sicker than a dog. I can't give the sermon today. Can you fill in for me?" And the associate pastor said, "Well, I'll try. It's last minute notice, but I'll do the best I can." And the preacher thanked him and hung up the phone and put his golf club clothes on and put his golf clubs in the car and drove 2 counties over so nobody would know him and nobody would see that he's playing hooky. So he gets to the golf course, tees up on the first tee, hits the ball at just about that time. A gust of wind takes the ball 492 yards. It lands on the edge of the green and rolls down toward the cup, further and further. And yes, it went in. A hole in one. And the angel up in heaven looks over at God and says, "I don't understand this, God. He should be down there preaching, spreading your word, and you give him a shot of a lifetime. You give him a hole in one. You give him a shot that Tiger Woods would die for." And God, in a sense of humor, looks over and kind of chuckles and says, "Yeah, but who's he going to tell?" Ladies and gentlemen, this next speaker coming out has a lot to tell. He's going to tell us all about these amazing little books called Wee Books. And speaking about books, I want to just take a minute and thank Ken for allowing me to design and compile the program book. And you know, you never judge a book by its cover because you may never know what's on the inside. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the astounding Ray Ricard. Thank you, David. Such great memories. Lots and lots of good things to remember. And speaking of remembering, it reminds me of my favorite story. It's about an elderly couple. They're getting a little bit older and they're having trouble remembering. So they go to the doctor to have it checked out, and the doctor runs a whole battery of tests. And a few minutes later, or a short time later, the doctor comes back and tells them everything checks out fine, but you are getting a little bit older. And with age, it does come with some forgetfulness. So go home and enjoy life, but just write down the important things. So that night, the husband and wife are sitting there watching TV. And eventually the husband looks over at the wife and says, "You know, I've been thinking about that vanilla ice cream in the freezer for the last 15 minutes. I think I'm going to go out and have some. Would you want some?" And she said, "Oh, I've been thinking about the chocolate ice cream in the freezer for the last 15 minutes. I would love some chocolate ice cream." So he starts to go out, and she says, "Well, aren't you going to write it down?" And he says, "Well, the doctor, she said, write down the important things." And she said, "Well, that chocolate ice cream is important to me." With that, he goes on out. And a few minutes later, she hears the pots and pans. And about 10, maybe 15 minutes later, here he comes, carrying a tray. And instead of ice cream, he's got bacon and eggs. And she took one look, rolled her eyes, shook her hand, and she says, "I knew you should have wrote it down. I knew you were going to forget. You forgot the toast." Ladies and gentlemen, this next speaker is not going to forget to toast because he has great memory. In fact, he's going to share some of the memories and the history of the salon. Wait.
I just want to know something.
Yes.
What was that last speaker's name?
David Stahl.
Stahl.
Yes.
You know, that choked me up. That was a wonderful speaker, David.
It was.
If he would allow this, I got something similar to that one hanging on my wall. If he would let me keep it for a while, I'd like to give it to him for his collection.
Wow. Dave, you hear that?
You made me cry. I want you to.
It doesn't get any better than that, folks. Anyway, please put your hands together for the next speaker. He's going to talk about the Salon de Magie and Whitehall. The most memorable, Rob Hewlett. Good evening, good evening, good evening. And again, welcome to the second Cincinnati Magic Collectors Convention. My name is Paul Ketterer, and I get the honor and the privilege of introducing the next three speakers. But first, my favorite story. Story about three elderly sisters. One's 90, one's 92, one's 94. The 94-year-old sister goes up the steps into the bedroom, into the bathroom, takes one step into the shower. She gets a little bit confused. So she calls down to the 92-year-old sister. She says, I need some help. I can't remember if I'm getting into the shower or getting out. So the 92-year-old sister says, I'll come up to help. She goes up the steps. She gets halfway up there. She pauses. She gets a little bit confused. And she says, calls down to the 90-year-old sister. She says, I need some help. I can't remember if I'm going up the steps or down the steps. So the 90-year-old sister says to herself, I am so glad that I'm not old like my sisters. I'm so glad that I'm not senile like my sisters. Knock on wood. So she calls to the sister on the step and she says, I'll be there to help you as soon as I find out who's at the door. And then by the time to find out who's knocking at our side door, then this next speaker, he is a longtime fellow magic collector. He is the owner of MagicCollectibles.com. And he's part of the committee that put this all together. He's the director of the dealers. Also, I'm told he has a keen eye for great magic. Please welcome to the stage, Jim Ross.